of keeping your heart healthy means watching what you eat. Our next guest says to do that, it's important to eat meals that are high in protein and fiber and low in fat. And one way to do that is cooking with quinoa. Here with a delicious recipe is Katerine Duffy, a registered dietitian from Yale-New Haven Hospital. Welcome to the show, Katerine.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell me your role as a registered dietitian at the hospital?
My current role is in cardiac rehabilitation in the Heart and Vascular Center at Yale-New Haven Hospital. And I work with patients who either have diagnosed heart disease or have a lot of risk factors. So they're seeing an endocrinologist, a cardiologist, and they want to now start on the healthier path.
Sure, start eating right. Huh?
Yeah.
All right, and today we mentioned we were making a recipe with quinoa. A lot of health benefits in quinoa.
Yes.
All right, let's get cooking. Show me how we get started.
Okay. So what I started with was just extra virgin olive oil, garlic, and onion.
Okay.
And this would be sautéed, which to turn on.
We could saute. Here, we'll go just like that. And we're cooking with steam. There we go. Typically, do you use an olive oil, or what do you cook with?
I usually use olive oil just because I like the flavor and it does have a lot of heart benefits. If you're going to use high heat, which would be deep frying, you won't want to use olive oil because it actually degrades very easily and smokes very easily.
Okay.
So some other really beneficial oils would be avocado oil, which is...
Oh, I've never even heard of that.
It's a little bit less common just because it has a bright green color, so most people don't want their foods turning bright green.
Okay.
Other things, flaxseed oil doesn't really have that high of a temperature. Canola oil has a lot of heart benefits, the same, pretty close to olive oil, and you can use a lot higher of a temperature.
Okay.
So that one is very commonly used. And right here, I'm just going to saute this down. The reason I do these together is if you cook anything in a fat, it's going to impart more flavor into the finished product.
Okay.
So once this becomes translucent, you're going to start adding the other ingredients. So I tried to fit in as many vegetables as possible.
Okay.
And because this meal doesn't have any meat in it. And some people might be disappointed by the lack of meat, but I used mushrooms in it, which
kind of have a meaty texture to it, right?
Yeah, have a very similar texture and flavor. And also the quinoa itself is very high in protein. And for a vegetarian, it's a really good source of protein because it's complete.
Okay.
And not everybody might know what complete proteins mean, but it has all of the building blocks to make protein in your body.
Right.
So we need that because our body constantly breaks down and rebuilds proteins.
And you were telling me that these peppers had a high food score. I don't know what that is, so why don't you explain that to our viewers?
So I actually calculated out the nutritionals in this, so the nutrition facts, and the serving size would be 2 halves of the pepper, 1 whole pepper.
Oh, you get 2 peppers with that. That's great.
You do, and it's about 275 calories for 2 of those. So that's a pretty significant amount.
Yeah, it's a lot
and
of
it's
food.
just the matter of it has very little fat in it, which does add up to calories very quickly. And it has a lot of fiber, which adds a lot of bulk to it, so you could have more food with less calories in it.
Very good. All right. So those onions and garlic seem to be cooking down. Let me ask you another. Let's go through a meal. Like if you eat breakfast, what would you recommend your clients to have for breakfast?
For breakfast, I always say to have something with protein in it. So if you're going to have oatmeal, which is a very common breakfast, and a lot of people think it's the healthiest thing that you can do, you want to put some protein. So milk would be a way. If you don't use dairy, you could use soy milk. Some of the other non-dairy ones don't have as much protein in them. Another thing would be Greek yogurt. So the difference between regular yogurt and Greek yogurt is that it's strained a lot more. So it's
thicker too, right?
Yeah, so it's basically just concentrated protein.
Got it.
I like to stir like egg whites into
your oatmeal?
Into
All
oatmeal.
Right, there you go. Lots of options.
Yeah, it thickens it up and it actually just adds more nutrition to that meal.
All right, well, we have about a minute left, so let's add these veggies. Or would you do the quinoa next?
I would do all the veggies.
Okay.
So I did zucchini. I've done this recipe with just about every type of vegetable in it, so it's really whatever you'd like. I add carrot just to give it some sweetness.
Okay. And your mushrooms.
Mushrooms will give it a lot of liquid to it as well. And then I decided to use canned vegetables just out of convenience.
Sure.
But you could use fresh. This one is actually no salt added, so there are canned products that you could find that are no salt added, so you don't have to sacrifice time and expense.
Sure. It's a little easier. You're allowed to, right? seems to be a really quick and easy.
It really is, and you
dish.
can basically do it in one pan if you cook the quinoa in with it.
Cleanup. That's good too.
Yes, and I use tomato paste just because it thickens it up and it adds a concentrated source of the tomato.
Okay.
And then for spices, I did cumin, paprika, and cayenne pepper, and a little bit of basil. And I chose those just because they're very strong flavors, so you don't really need the sodium or anything else. Especially if you like spicy, then it's a really great way to go. And
you're really not missing out on anything here. I mean, if you're altering your diet and this is something that you eat, I mean, you'll be filled up.
Right.
Not bad. All right, so I'm assuming you cut the peppers in half, you fill them up. We'll check back in with you at the end of the show, Katerine. Thank you so much for the recipe.
Thank you.
And for more info on Yale-New Haven Hospital, go to ynhh.org, and you can also find info on Yale-New Haven's Facebook page. And these look great. This is going to be a great lunch. Thanks so much. And up next, would you know what to do if someone was having a heart attack? We'll go over the basics when Connecticut Style returns.